let's jump right into the question. So the first question is, how much can you earn as a medical writer? And the answer to that question is that it varies. It's just like any profession, right? A lot of professions tend to, even with high earning professions, you're going to have people that earn a whole lot of money, and you're going to have people earning on a lower tier. So according to Glassdoor, okay, I'm going to take a screenshot of Glassdoor as of when I'm recording this video, which is somewhere in the towards the tail end of June 2022, right? You have the range of how much people make as medical writers. The last time I checked, the range was anywhere between $65,000 and $120,000. And my experience in this field says that yes, this is quite true, that you can earn anywhere between these amounts. Now, this is an average that what I'm showing you on Glassdoor is an average of what people have actually reported as their incomes who have the title of medical writer. So as much as that is a good ballpark to work with, you know, don't think that you're limited to that. Okay, you could probably earn more in a more senior role though, right? As somebody that's coming in, you're not going to start making $200,000 off the bat, but somebody that may have been at the role for a long time, is in a managerial role of some sort, may be making that, right? And so this is a good ballpark for people that are just beginning, but take it as that. It's a ballpark, it's an average. Another question I get a lot, and I don't know if this is a question or a misconception, is that all medical writer roles are remote or are home-based. And I want to debunk a bit of that myth. While there are a lot of medical writing roles that you could definitely do remotely, and yes, if you are going for remote, then go for remote, there are some types of roles where you may have to be on a site in order to interact with specific people on a team. Let me give you an example. So for instance, in my current role, right, I am a content specialist. I don't just write content, I'm also working on video content, concepts, discussing things with R&D scientists, collecting data that they are generating and then trying to make sense of it and creating content out of that data. So I'm not just a writer, I fill quite a few shoes. In order for me to do that, I do have to interact with the R&D scientists, right, the research and development scientists who are on the premises, I think 5 days a week, right? I have to interact with some business development managers. I have to interact with various people in various positions, because on the team that I sit on, right, there are multiple content needs. So I cannot do all of that remotely. It's important for me to interact in person. And yes, I do have video calls with a lot of people, but there are portions of my job where I have to be on site. And so for that reason, my job is not fully remote. It is sort of hybrid, right? So you have to keep that in mind, that some workplaces may require you to be on the premises depending on what your role is. Some roles actually, especially in health journalism, may require that you interview certain people in person. It may require that you take a trip. So it's not all remote, right? Just keep that in mind, that it's not all remote. You may have to show up somewhere for some reason, although there are a lot of medical writer roles that are remote. The next question here is, can I be a part-time medical writer? And I remember the first time I got this question, the person asked me, can I go to medical school and then be a medical writer on the side? And I'm not going to say no, because when I was a postdoc, I started a freelance writing business and I was making a few $1,000, like around $1,000, between $1,000 and $1,500 per month as a freelance writer. So I'm not going to be here to tell you that you cannot do it. However, true medical writing is quite time involved. You may have to have meetings with people. You may have to do some of the things I just described. You may have to interview people. So it's more than just writing, right? And so depending on the part-time role, yes, you may be able to do it in addition to a regular job or another job. But you know, just know what you're getting into before you start doing that. Because when I think about part-time, I think about the fact that you're an employee and they're going to be expecting something of you. They're going to be expecting you to dedicate 20 hours or 25 hours per week to the job, because it's a job. Now, when we start talking about freelance, this is a little different. In freelancing, you are essentially working on your own time. You take as much or as little as you want. You are not their employee, you are a contractor. It's a completely different working arrangement. So if it's freelance, I'm gonna say, yeah, you could freelance on the side. I've known people who are medical, and actually, you know, when you think about it, it's like any job, right? There are medical students who have YouTube videos, there are medical students who are influencers, there are people who are doing other jobs and something else on the side. So why not medical writing? So absolutely you can do that, but it's sort of, I always think of it, even though medical writing may not be as stressful as, you know, a lot of other jobs out there, let's say as a physician, right? Let me tell you, when I'm done with my day as a medical writer, I don't want to do anything else. I mean, today I went to work and I'm recording this video, so like, yeah, anyway, yes, so I'm not gonna say no, but please do know what you're getting into, because there will be expectations. There will be times where you are going to get work sent back to you to revise. There's so much, there are meetings to sit on, there's a lot involved, and so think about that. Another interesting question I had gotten recently on a video that I did. The video I did about why I love being a medical writer was on the ethics of medical writing. And I want to discuss that a little bit, right? So within the medical space, there is a lot of regulation. Medicine and healthcare within the United States is very highly regulated, right? And so, for instance, pharmaceutical companies cannot just put out a drug and say this drug cures so and so, right? They have to have the research to back it. They have to go through a whole approval process through the FDA, that's the Food and Drug Administration. They have to submit reports, they have to submit studies, they have to do phase 1, 2, 3 trials. There is a lot that goes into approving a drug. There's a lot that goes into approving a medical device. There's a lot that goes into approving a piece of equipment that is used to produce things that are going to be used for human medical use. And so it's highly regulated. And so as somebody that is a writer in that industry, I can't just put anything out there. Okay, so when I worked in an agency, before I got into my current role, I worked as a writer within a life science marketing agency. So there's a marketing agency that's focused solely on serving the life science and healthcare community. And let me tell you something. Okay, there were documents that I would start in, let's say, November, that would not get approved until May or June. It would take that long for me to write not just write the document, but for it to go through the hands of various stakeholders, plus a lot of biotech, medical device, pharmaceutical companies, all these companies in the life and health sciences definitely have legal teams and regulatory teams, and your content is going nowhere until it has passed through the hands of these people. And so the legal people are going to look at it and say, I don't like this word, I don't like that word, we're making a claim here, we can't make this claim. The regulatory people are going to look at this, at whatever you've written, and say, okay, this is for research use only. You cannot claim that something that is research use only can be used as a diagnostic or can be used for pharmaceutical purposes. So you need to take out this whole section. We need to scrap this. So there is a lot that goes into it. And so because it's highly regulated, it's usually, unless maybe it's sort of like a social media post or a blog post that is not making any claims, okay, you cannot just write anything in medical writing and put it out there. Now, blog writing and social media content usually falls a little bit under more marketing writing, not, you know, writing that would require legal, and even then sometimes legal and regulatory does go through it. So, you know, you can't just put anything out there. You can't just put anything out there. So there is a lot that goes into it. Even when I worked with the agency, one of the things I noted was that they didn't just take on clients just to make money. You know, all business was not good business. If the client or the potential client is making claims they cannot back up, is saying that this is the next big thing without the evidence, without the proof, without the research, without the requisite, you know, criteria that the company business development section needed to see, we were not taking on that client. So there was very much like vetting of clients before we took them, and even when we took them and we created content, okay, it had to go through several checkpoints. So there is a lot of regulation. Now, am I saying that because of that nothing wrong ever happens? Come on. We're living on this earth, we're human beings. And unfortunately, you know, bad things happen. So, you know, you hope that nobody would, you know, fraudulently make claims or anything like that. And you hope that you're never the medical writer that contributed to that. But it may happen, you know. But as long as I've been in this profession, let me tell you, we can't just put anything out there. Right, moving on to medical writing tests. This is another question I've gotten, and this is also varied, okay? So depending on where you're going to work or where you're interviewing, you may or may not have a medical writing test. Depending on how experienced you are, you may or may not have a medical writing test. And medical writing test could be anything. In my case, when I started working with CG Life, which is the agency I used to work with, my boss gave me a topic and was like, can you write 500 words on this topic? And I did write, and she liked it. And so that was my test. Some places they do more, you know, intense tests, like actual tests, right? So for my current job, I didn't take any tests. I had a portfolio. I presented that to them. I went through the interview process and I got the job. Very, very grateful for that. So it's going to be different for different roles. It's just important to find out upfront what the test, you know, and sometimes people feel really nervous to ask, okay, what's the test going to entail? Don't be shy to ask this, right? Like, what am I going to be expected to know? Am I going to be writing an article? Am I going to be taking a test? Is it important for me? You know, and you can glean some of that from reading the job description and knowing which terms and which concepts you need to be familiar with. For instance, with regulatory writing, you better know what GMP is, or you better know what what clinical trial reports is. You better know what that is. Even if you've never written one, you should know something. So maybe they're going to test you on that. You find out what the test is going to be about, and I think, you know, most people that are ethical will be forthcoming about that. Can you be a medical writer without a PhD? The answer is yes, you can. You don't really need a PhD to be a medical writer, but having a PhD does put you in a really good position. I answer that question more extensively in this video right here, so I encourage you to check out that video. What skills do you need as a medical writer? So I think that if you're really good at researching, if you're really good at reading something, comprehending it, and being able to boil complex topics down to topics that a layperson could understand, especially if your role will involve you doing that, that's important. Writing skills are important. 2 books I recommend for anybody to get for just general writing, improving your writing in general. 2 books, I'm going to leave Amazon links below, are Elements of Style by E.B. White, and then On Writing Well. Those 2 are a really good combination for you to get a good baseline on writing. And they're not books that you can just sit down and read. They're more manuals. So On Writing Well is a little humorous, so you could read it. But definitely they're good resources to have on hand so that your writing is good. You really need to know how to write. And, you know, writing in the non-academic world is different from writing in the academic world. So a lot of the time people say, oh, I've written papers, I've published papers. Why can't that be, you know, the same as medical writing? And no, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. I think there's a meme like that. It's not the same, you know. It's not the same. So you would need to learn different types of writing. You may need to learn skills like search engine optimization, for instance, especially if you're going to be in a marketing role. You may need to learn how the structure of how a regulatory document is written. If you're going to work in publishing, you may need to learn a bit more about the publishing industry. You know, so there's a lot to learn across the board. Just know which type of medical writing you're getting into and what skills are required in that role. Is medical writing stressful? Well, if I enjoy writing and content creation, to be honest. So for me, it's not stressful. I always feel like I'm doing something that I really enjoy, so it's never stressful for me. If you hate writing, if you hate content creation, if you hate content ideation, if like thinking about writing is giving you itchy skin, don't get into it.